Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, April 22nd, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. This podcast covers the national champions. A little bit of a different show for you today. Got Bill Kurelic, per usual. The Dean, the Grand Poobah himself, Mark Porter, is in Florida somewhere, entertaining the masses from a high school. I think one of those Ohio towns where the entire town goes down to a beach in Florida and kicks it, and Mark's the star of the show. I think he's got a motorboat, but we digress. Today, the Dean, and lots of them. If you know the name of the show, let the Dean cook. He is the man when it comes to recruiting content and these days transfer portal content. Ohio State, we weren't sure how involved they'd be in this second portal window, and it seems like they are cranking it up a little bit and in the obvious spots. Speaking of obvious spots, you need to be nourished to take on the transfer portal and to take on this week. Shoot, we got the NFL draft starting Thursday night. That's basically a holiday here in these parts. Do you want to spend the whole time cooking and making hors d'oeuvres for the masses? I know you don't. You need to be focused on football and talent, personnel acquisition. So that means you need to make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up in the microwave and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you want. We've said this here before. The days of the TV dinners and Tom Cruise in Risky Business taking a bite of a frozen Salisbury steak, and really you're only eating that to get to that whatever, like apple and biscuity thing that was in the corner there of your TV dinner, which was tasty. No longer. They can cook chicken in here and it tastes delicious. I don't know how they've done it. They've solved the matrix. But with 45 weekly menu options, that's not it. You can pick from gourmet meals that fit your goals. Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. Factor powers your day. They got satisfying breakfast. You get on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, guilt-free snacks, and desserts. You can line it up so they can hook you all day. Get started at factormeals.com/bucknuts50off. Factormeals.com/bucknuts50off and use code bucknuts50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Go now, 50% off plus free shipping at Factor Meals. All right. Factoring in the Dean here, Bill, you are flying solo today. You are not getting paid double, so don't ask again. I was telling the people that the Grand Poobah is probably down in Florida, being the dad everyone wanted to have, pulling people around in a boat, and just everyone checking him and the fam out. But we are focused, Bill, on Cruton. But really what's kind of picked up here is transfer portal chatter. And given the fact that the name of the show is Let the Dean Cook, and I've got some questions coming from the front row here in a bit, we're going to do kind of a roll call catch up here on the transfer portal. Things are moving quickly. These guys all have visits set up. The portal's not open forever. So I'm going to give you a name and you tell me kind of the latest. If they're visiting, how interested Ohio State is, maybe what position you think they'll be playing, and just how much our hopes should be up. Because it does seem like there's new names almost every day. And when a name comes up for Ohio State, sometime in that story, it usually says they're a finalist or someone's visiting. So first, some names you know probably. One is defensive end Bo Atkinson from North Carolina. Is he a defensive end? Is he a defensive tackle? And will he be a Buckeye, Bill?
He is definitely a defensive end. As you mentioned, Dan, he's out of North Carolina, and he has been visiting Ohio State. Nothing. I don't have any intel yet on how his visit has been going, but hopefully I will have that today. But, he visited Georgia, did not commit there. Ohio State would like to wrap him up. He's a target, no doubt about that. He is a 6'6", 260-pound productive defensive end at the college level. North Carolina, he had 11 sacks the last 2 seasons, including 7.5 this past season. So he's productive. There's no question. Sometimes there's questions. High school kids, they haven't played college football yet. At least they were close to the level Ohio State plays at. And, North Carolina may not be quite at the level Ohio State is at football-wise. In fact, I don't think they are. But they're not that far off, and he has excelled at that level. The culture was a big thing with him, and he's a big Christian guy. He wanted to see how that is at Ohio State. He's heard so much about that at Ohio State, and see what they have in mind for him. And we'll see what happens. But he is a guy that Ohio State has a realistic shot at getting, and would like to add to the program. The defensive line is the main spot they're looking at, followed by offensive line when it comes to the portal.
I think that almost goes for everybody. However, when you hear Ryan Day come out and talk specifically about what they're going after, that means they are really going after him, because they don't like to do that. Bill, if you could mention with each guy we bring up here who the chief competition is for said transfer portal target, because I think sometimes, like recruiting, that lets you know the caliber of player. Who else is Bo Atkinson checking out?
Well, he did visit Georgia,
and there you have it.
That probably says it all right there. He visited Georgia before Ohio State, and when you're talking Ohio State and Georgia, it doesn't get any better than that.
Those are the two now. I've told you this in the past. I look at the offer list for a real definition of how good the player is, and it fluctuates which schools you want to look at. And I think right now Georgia and Ohio State are out in front of everybody when it comes to talent. Maybe Oregon in the mix in terms of next teams up. Alabama was there, and we'll probably hold them in the on-deck circle. They were certainly in the batter's box with Nick Saban. All right. Defensive lineman Troy Pikes from Georgia Southern.
Yeah, he is a 6'4", 285-pound defensive tackle. We talked about Atkinson. I said he's definitely a defensive end guy. Pikes is a defensive tackle guy. And he is going to visit Ohio State. His visit will come this weekend, Friday. It's going to be a big weekend for Ohio State. They're having several transfer portal players visit this weekend, multiple transfer portal guys visit this weekend. So it's going to be an important weekend. The portal closes as far as players getting into the portal. It closes on the 25th, which is Friday. So after that, I'm not sure it ever really closes. Anytime a head coach leaves, it reopens. But technically, officially, it closes at the end of the day Friday. But that doesn't mean that portal guys can't visit schools. Ohio State will be hosting, as I mentioned, multiple guys, one of them Troy Pikes. And once again, who did he visit before Ohio State? Georgia. He did not seem overly excited when I talked to him about that visit, but it is Georgia. Georgia did have a big weekend where they got multiple transfer portal commitments. He will be on to Ohio State on Friday, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Georgia got a defensive end out of Army.
Yep.
A backer out of somewhere. I'm not really sure. And the other guys weren't really on our radar. Here's a guy that's on our radar, and I'm just reading the tea leaves here, Bill. I think this, if you were to ask Buckeye Nation, this would be their number one choice. Defensive lineman Murad Watson from Syracuse, New Jersey native. Got a couple of Jersey guys on the team. Kind of your more classic defensive tackle, Bill. Maybe does 2 stops at the buffet line. What do you know about Murad Watson?
Well, he is a 6'3", and our Buckeye Nation's going to like this, because I always see we need that big guy in the middle, as people will say. 6'3", 315 pounds. That's a big guy. And he is visiting Texas right now. So there's one of, if not the main competition. He is visiting Texas, Tennessee, South Carolina, possibly Georgia. Those are the big schools. It's not going to come cheap for whoever gets him. Defensive tackle, there just aren't a lot of great ones that have been in the portal, and he is maybe as good as it gets. I mean, you can make that argument. He was a starter for Syracuse last year. I think he's 11 games, I believe, 11 starts. He made 31 tackles, had a sack. So production at the major, the big school level, college big school level. And he's what Ohio State is looking for. He also 3 years of eligibility left. You got to love that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he will visit Ohio State sometime after he completes this visit to Texas. He was leaving yesterday, late afternoon, early evening, I believe, for Texas. So I assume he is actually there at Texas right now, making that visit. And then from there, he was going to kind of work out his other visits. And I would be a little surprised if one of them is not to Ohio State, although you never know. Sometimes it happens. They go somewhere, and that's where they end up going. We'll see.
There's been some chatter that Texas has already taken several portal defensive tackles, one being Hero Canoe, and that might mean there's no room at the end. Texas is not a no room at the end kind of program. They are an oil money kind of program. So if it's an NIL tussle, Texas is one of those teams that can definitely stand in the ring and trade punches with anybody, even us. So we will get to that. All right, Bill, let's flip to the offense. You talk about high quality guys being available in the portal. It does seem like bigger humans are desired, which brings us to offensive lineman Orion Irving, great name, from Sam Houston State, not the biggest school ever. Is he looking to move up a level to the Big Ten, Bill? And what are your thoughts on Mr. Irving?
Well, he is a big guy, 6'6", 310 pounds. Ohio State is, if he were to end up at Ohio State is thinking tackle for him, although they have also, guard is a possibility. He has been a tackle at Sam Houston State. He's played both left and right tackle. More left tackle, but he has played both, and you like that. He also has multiple years of eligibility left. He has 2 years of eligibility left. He was a Conference USA all-freshman first-team guy after the 2020 season. He played 10 games, started 5 that year. And, again, he has multiple years. You're looking at competition-wise, certainly Houston. He is at Sam Houston State. He is from Houston Lamar High School. Houston has offered him a scholarship, as has Ohio State, Tulsa, Liberty, Middle Tennessee State. But I think, when a kid's from Houston and he's been at Sam Houston and Houston has offered him a scholarship, that's definitely the competition right there. He is, I don't know if I said or not, I don't think I did, he is visiting Ohio State on Friday along with Troy Pike. So, again, going to be a big weekend for Ohio State, no doubt.
The good news is, and as I look outside here in the Gem City, the weather is beautiful.
Likewise in Columbus.
I know that people I don't think anyone's going to make a decision based on the weather. But if you are considering schools that tend to have warmer weather, the SEC in Texas, and you come to Ohio State in the spring, and, for example, it's snowing, not good. I know one family that went on a college visit recently and was worried about the weather in a certain place, woke up and it was snowing. And the first person, someone said to the other, I don't think the coaches are going to be happy about the weather for this visit. They weren't. However, Ohio State sells a big game. It's a little bit different. This one kind of surprised me, Bill, and I think kind of surprised others. If they're doing this would be transfer portal chess. And there's one position that Ohio State, for its excellence, maybe has never is a stretch. I don't remember them having a guy who was back there returning punts and kicks that could A, catch the ball consistently, while B, being a threat to the defense. We got lots of threats and lots of guys who can catch. Can they ever meet? I mean, Brandon Innes, I give that guy a ton of credit. He would come off the he wouldn't touch the ball. And they'd put him in there in a big punt return. He has great hands and never really cut him loose. But that brings me to the name Keelan Marion from Brigham Young University. Not exactly the most common spot for Ohio State to portalize. A wide receiver, kick returner. And Bill, I could be taking a leap here, and this is just me reading. I don't know if that guy would ever get on the field as a wide receiver here, but if he wants to stand back there and be a return specialist, that sounds great to me. Am I on the same page as the coaches?
I think he would get on the field if he picked Ohio State. I just don't think with the depth, he's not going to be, they got Jeremiah Smith. There's nobody like Jeremiah Smith. They got Carnell Tate, and they got others. But I think he's good enough to get on the field and help as a wide receiver. I mean, he had a couple. He went to Connecticut out of high school and was there multiple seasons. Then he went to BYU, and he has had a couple pretty good seasons there. 20 catches, I think, 2 years ago. 24 this past season. So he's done some work there. But like you said, what really is exciting about him is as a kick returner. He averaged over 26 yards per kick return for BYU this past season, and he had a couple touchdowns where taking it to the house is always a nice thing on that kick return. Nothing more demoralizing than if you just score a touchdown, for instance, or get a field goal and you kick it off and the other guy takes it back 95 yards for a touchdown. That can be pretty demoralizing. And Keelan Marion has that ability. So I think, to me, that's the most exciting thing about him. Now, Ohio State has not offered him a scholarship to this point, unless that has happened in the last 30 minutes. But they haven't offered him a scholarship yet. And he hasn't said. We'll see what happens if they offer him and bring him in for a visit. He has only 1 year of eligibility left, by the way.
That's a return specialist to me. It's a very, very tall order if you just look at the depth chart here and think about trying to get on the field as a wide receiver. That's a tough one. All right, last guy we're going to talk about from the portal. Then we're going to read another ad. Then we're going to flip to Cruton and just give you more information than you know how to handle. Purdue offensive lineman Jaden Ball. Now, Jaden Ball follows what I like to call the Philly Daniels template. You were raised in Ohio. In this case, Jaden Ball attended Bloom Carroll High School. Maybe you're not necessarily Ohio State target caliber coming out of high school, but you go to a Big Ten school, you own your skills, and then once you are proficient enough at said skills, you come back home. Jaden Ball, Purdue offensive lineman, Bill, what are the chances he joins Princeton grad and Minnesota transfer Phil Daniels in the offensive line room?
Good one to end with here on our portal talk, because this is a guy I definitely have an eye on as far as Ohio State. He is 6'6". He's another big human being, 6'6", 310 pounds. And that is definitely tackle size. He was a candidate to be Purdue's starting right tackle this season. He is a redshirt freshman, and there was some talk on our board that why is Ohio State looking at a guy that didn't even get into a game didn't play a snap, I should say, at Purdue. That's not accurate. He did get in 2 games at Purdue, and again, he was seen as a possible starter for them at right tackle before he got into the portal. He did tell me last night he is making a visit to Ohio State, and this is the part that's interesting to me. A lot of times these portal guys make one-day visits. He told me last night he is making a multi-day visit to Ohio State. He said, I'm visiting Friday the 25th to Sunday. So to me, that's significant. He's a guy that I would really keep in mind. And as you and I talked about, Dan, before the show, Ohio State is really, with Tyler Bowen coming in, they're really developing some depth on an offensive line. If you go all the way across the line, and now you got guys, Philip Daniels might not even be a starter this year. That was a really good transfer portal addition. They bring in Jaden Ball, who has multiple years of eligibility left, 3 years, I believe. You bring him in. They are developing some nice depth behind what I think is going to be a pretty darn good starting group of offensive linemen.
So Tyler Bowen took over for a guy who won the national championship as an offensive line coach. He's been here 2 months, and I would bet if you did a poll on like a favorability poll, he would outrank his predecessor already, given the way he's hit the ground running. Now, should he? Don't know, but this has exceeded at least my personal expectations for offensive line recruiting. I can't remember a time, Bill, when we've been doing this together, which is coming up on years. I can't remember them recruiting the offensive line this fervently, if that's a word used correctly, or just in the mix for so many dudes. I know we're always in the mix for the crown jewel guy, and a lot of times that doesn't work out. But in terms of just across the board, this guy Bowen has he must have been geeked at Virginia Tech, and he's let the cat out of the bag here, because he's been on a roll, man. I mean, I feel like we've been talking about offensive line, and then every other position's the other half. Okay.
That too, that Tyler Bowen was a very good recruiter at Penn State before he took that offensive coordinator gig at Virginia Tech. So he's really done a nice job. And one other thing about that, they asked Ryan Day how he felt after the end of spring practice about the offensive line and starters depth-wise, and his comment was solid. Yet they've got a chance to add a couple offensive linemen in the portal, and they're looking really good with their high school class of 2026. So Ryan Day says it's solid, yet they're going to add on in all likelihood.
I think the experience of this past season, playing so many games and seeing firsthand what type of depth is needed, and if you could have predicted what the offensive line would have looked like the last day of the season as opposed to the first, you should be living in Las Vegas. You can wake up at noon, go place a couple bets, and then hit the club, because you're going to be loaded. All right. When you do go out to the club, what will you be wearing on your face? Are you one of those guys like Bill, who heads into the club, sunglasses on? He's the ones with the yellow tint, so you can kind of pretend. No. Gooders is what you need. Stylish sunnies, starting at only $25 a pair. Excuse me. 1 year warranty, 30-day free returns, lightweight and comfortable. I told the story before. I sent my son to spring break with 2 pairs. The Ocean, or the Gulf there, claimed one, and he still had another pair to go, and he didn't have to call and say, "Dad, I lost my $250 Varnays because I was trying to look cool." No. Gooder. It's what you need for the modern guy. I cannot tell you how many times I've been to an Ohio State game with a noon kickoff, and when I wake up the next day, I ain't got no sunglasses, and my memory is taxed. So don't let that happen to you. And if you need a new pair, Gooder is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. Go to gooder.com/Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, gooder.com and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. And Dave and I say this a lot, but if you're starting to hear the same advertisers come back, it's because they love Bucknutters as customers. Okay. Now, we've got a bunch of questions on here. I'm going to actually ask you, Bill, the first 4 questions that were submitted for the front row last night. We put up a thread, and it said, "Let the dean cook." And as you are cooking up right here, we will get these questions asked. And then I've got a list of guys that we definitely need to discuss. All right. First question. Okay, Bill, this is a good one. It's transfer portal. Do you think they're going to go after an insurance quarterback in the transfer portal? Obviously, the clock is ticking. There was some thought that they needed a Gunnar Hoke, Chris Chuganoff type clipboard holder, break glass in case of emergency veteran. Do you think that'll happen?
Well, there has been an interest, but it's not a priority. They've got 3 scholarship quarterbacks. They like them all. There's been no indication that any of them are considering leaving strongly. So they're pretty good shape there. You like to have 4, and they did reach out to a guy, would be a backup type guy, a guy that you met, something like a Gunnar Hoke or whatever, and that guy ended up going elsewhere. So I think if the right guy came available, still they'll look at it. It's just not a priority. And by the way, speaking, I gotta maybe change the subject slightly. I put a thing on our message board last night. We've talked about Matt Ponatoski. There was a little clip he had playing baseball for Moeller the other day, hitting it out of the park, hitting it into the gap. Big time shortstop guy for MLB.
I wouldn't mind having Matt. I'm thinking more Matt Ponatoski for the Nats rather than for the Buckeyes. But hey, whatever he wants to do, we'd be open to it. Like he's obviously a man who has many choices, but he has baseball players make a lot of money. That's incredible. So if you can play baseball till you're 100. So if you can do that, go ahead and do it. If not, we'll check it out. All right. The other question.
If you watch that flip, or if you watch that clip, when he hit that home run, he had a really nice bat flip.
Oh yeah,
very good.
Bill, I saw a bat flip in a game. I think it was a high school game or a college game where the bat flip, the guy threw it 30 feet in the air. I'm not kidding. The camera was focused on first base, and they're saying, watch the bat flip, and you can't see anything. All of a sudden, you see this bat go, and it was a walk-off homer. Otherwise, it probably been a walk-off brawl. Because I don't think baseball still applies some of those old regulations, unspoken word. You're not supposed to show up the pitcher, but we digress. All right, they asked me about this yesterday, Bill, and I kind of waffled on it, and I don't say that tongue-in-cheek, knowing we're going to talk about a certain waffle here coming up, but I was asked about Jameer Brown, the speedster from Huber Heights, Wayne, visited Notre Dame. He's obviously verbally committed to Ohio State, and there is some concern. Normally, I wouldn't be concerned, and to say concern for me at this point when it comes to Brian Hartline and a recruit, I'd probably be stretching it a little bit, but in terms of discussion, he visited Notre Dame. Notre Dame's head coach, Bill, I don't know if you know this, he went to Ohio State. Before that, he went to Huber Heights, Wayne. His name's Marcus Freeman. Does that see, there you go. Sean Duffy's on it. Even time with my meandering joke, he got it up there. But your thoughts on Jameer Brown? The question always when a guy goes and visits, should we be worried?
Yeah, that was an interesting one because I was doing my daily work, and all of a sudden I get a text message. Hey, just wanted to let you know Jameer Brown's visiting Notre Dame tomorrow. That's kind of interesting, and as you said, there is a connection there, but it's just so hard to bet against Brian Hartline, whether he wants a guy to add to the program or keep a commitment in tow. Is just really hard. And I don't rule out Notre Dame, but I would say that my concern meter would not be sky high at this point at all.
Yep, here we go. We're talking about tattoos, and apparently Jameer has some Ohio State ink on there. That doesn't hurt either. The combination of Ohio State ink and Ohio State commitment and Brian Hartline, I'm going to guess those 3 things in a combination are undefeated. So Jameer is everyone wants a shot at the title. Go after it. We're going to bounce around here, Bill. Let's keep it in state. I'll do an in-state vibe, and then we'll move out. Rock Hill, defensive back, Akron Hoban, highly rated. There are men in the business who believe he will go to USC. I know USC's involved. Oregon's involved. This is not an in-state guy. Ohio State, has always had a lead for. I think he's had national eyes in general since the start. I don't know if that means they're not going to get him into the mix, but everyone wants to know what you think about Rock Hill and the kind of USC bubbling up recently.
Well, let me start by saying that things have changed, different periods of time for Rock Hill, and I've talked to him. I've talked to the family. I know them pretty well. At one point he was thinking he was going to go the distance and take official visits. And then as things move forward, he thought, well, maybe I want to get this over a little earlier than that and before official visits. Then it kind of flipped back that after things continued to progress, he and the family just felt like official visits would be very important in his decision. And that's kind of where it is right now, that he still hasn't moved back off that taking official visits. And I guess things have changed. And when people put in these picks, sometimes they change a lot too. Personally, I don't like to change picks at all. That's just my philosophy. I do it very, very sparingly. Others don't do that. They put in picks and they'll change them quite often. With Rock Hill, I think that as of now, it's going to more than likely go the distance and him take official visits. That's kind of where they are at right now. And if they hold to that, and again, I'm saying if they hold to that, a lot can happen between now and July and August. So we will see what happens. I think there's no doubt about it. He's seriously interested in schools on the West Coast. And their family has mentioned that to me. Oregon, USC, and he's really big on relationships. He does have a very good relationship with the coaches at USC. So I can see him going there. But again, if he stays with the thought of going through the process and taking official visits, a whole lot can happen between now and when he would decide.
I would agree. Keep in mind, Rock Hill is a super highly rated guy. So when his name can be in a headline, it's going to be in a headline. So sometimes let's dial it back a little bit and realize, like Bill said, this may be more marathon-y than sprinty, but we'll see. There's obviously a precedent here for Trey McNutt out at Oregon, was a star from Ohio, and I think the days where every single person in Ohio that gets an offer from an Ohio State program goes to Ohio State, those days are probably done, considering the quality of those players and the amount of money they can get elsewhere if they're, not the priority guy. So we're riding that one out. Ohio State will have their say at some point. All right. Let's move out of state here into the state of North Carolina. A name that has come up a lot recently is Pierre Dean from West Forsyth and Clemens, North Carolina. Plays offensive line, plays defensive line. Excuse me, good Lord. When I originally thought he'd be an offensive lineman, Bill, he looks kind of slight to me. And then you tell me now he may not even be destined for the offensive line should he come to Columbus.
Yeah, he's about 6'5", 255, 260 pounds. He's got it down to 3 schools: Ohio State, Georgia, and South Carolina. He has long had official visits set to Georgia and South Carolina. But when I talked to him on, I think it was Friday, maybe Thursday, Friday, he said, I now have an official visit set to Ohio State. Now, the thing with him is he's down to 3 schools, and he made a one-day visit to Ohio State on the Friday before the spring game, April 11th. That was just a one-day visit. He did not stay for the spring game. It was a one-day visit. That visit to Ohio State absolutely blew him away, and he told me basically that. It was fantastic. And he said after that visit, Ohio State had moved into the lead, and he was pretty firm about that they are now his leader over Georgia and South Carolina. But he also said in all likelihood, unless something changes, he wants to take official visits. Now, if that one-day unofficial visit to Ohio State blew him away that much, what is going to happen when he makes an official visit to Ohio State? Because they do a fantastic job with official visits. And that's the 2 biggest reasons I crystal balled him to Ohio State was he flat out told me Ohio State is a pretty significant leader right now, and it's his plan to get back for a multi-day official visit in June. So I like the Buckeyes' chances there with Dean. And Ohio State has told him he could play defensive line. Larry Johnson's recruiting him. He could play offensive line. Tyler Bowen is recruiting him. He doesn't really have a huge preference there. He told me either one is fine, but he slightly leans to defense. And Larry Johnson is recruiting him hard as a guy that could play either defensive end or defensive tackle. I see him a little bit more as growing into a defensive tackle. But Ohio State has mentioned 3-5 technique, edge, whatever, that they're looking at him at any of those spots.
Lisa Sims brings up the Georgia point. We need to play against Georgia soon. It seems we're competing with them for a lot of different players. I would agree. Someone asked me the other day, when did you know Ohio State was going to win the national championship? I'm not sure this is exactly it, but I was more psyched when Georgia lost than anything else. That was the team. I know they didn't play great every night out, but Georgia was a team whose best effort I think would have scared me the most. Lo and behold, no issue. And we're the champs. Probably wouldn't have mattered anyway. All right, Bill. Another name. We didn't discuss this earlier. It's just kind of an update, but I hear things good. Micah Smith, his interest in Ohio State, not waning. Are we looking at a commitment here soon? Micah Smith, I feel like, is a guy who should at some point be on Ohio State commitment watch.
Well, he is planning to take official visits. And if you've seen, he's taking a lot of unofficial visits now. And by the way, just because he's planning to take official visits, we all know things can change and kids can commit without taking official visits. But anyway, he is planning, or he has been taking unofficial visits. And if you've watched, I posted his Ohio State recap on our board. It's pretty glowing. He liked a lot about Ohio State. He visited there pretty recently. But he's done the same thing. He's posted a recap of Tennessee, for instance. He's doing that for all the different unofficial visits he takes. He is a teammate, or was a teammate, I should say, of current Ohio State linebacker TJ Alford. And as Dan, you said, you can kind of repeat the TJ Alford precedent that he set. And what was that, Dan?
I've never seen anything like it. It was the true sign that recruiting has changed. He announced his commitment to Ohio State and then his 5 official visit schedule after that, which was completely screwy. But however, he is on campus, so it all worked out.
Yep. And who knows? Maybe with Micah Smith that happens. Maybe he decides on a college and then takes his official visits. He hasn't indicated he's going to do that, but maybe that happens. We'll see. But he's a guy that like I said, his recap of Ohio State, it was pretty glowing for sure.
Well, this is an easy one. Are we still basking? Of course. I'm going to be basking maybe. I don't know what's the rules on basking through another season, Bill. I think until something goes awry, I'll be basking. And then even then, I might have some leftover bask. All right. Another.
Dan, before you go on to the next one, I got to get this in because he's such a good poster on our board. Somebody did Fox R 2001 had a post there on our board that you posted, Let the Dean Cook, asking about where Ohio State is position-wise in numbers. And I can run down that pretty quickly.
Do it.
With the 2026 class he was referring to. Ohio State wants 1 quarterback. They want 2 running backs. They want 4 wide receivers. And they've got 3 of them so far, by the way. They want 2 tight ends. They have 1 so far. They want 5 or 6 offensive linemen. They want 2 or 3 defensive ends. They want 2 or 3 defensive tackles, 3 linebackers or so, 2 or 3 corners, and 3 or 4 safeties. So I could not, it's such a great poster, Fox R 2001. I had to make sure that I did cover that real quickly.
So there's been some talk about making Still Basking T-shirts. I think we need to do that. I'm going to look into that, and then what I will do is I will come on the internet here and ask you if you would really buy one. And then if we get enough people honor code to say they'll do it, we'll go ahead and get those made. I'm not looking to turn a profit on those, but I certainly wouldn't want to take a hit either. All right, a couple more names to discuss. Darius Gray, Bill, the latest. There's some optimism out there.
Yeah, that's another one where I mentioned how all of a sudden I got a text kind of alerting me to the Jameer visiting Notre Dame. Got a text last night, it was a message last night, I believe, straight from Darius saying, wanted to let you know, just moments ago, I scheduled my official visit to Ohio State. I said, fantastic. Fantastic that you let me know right away, and fantastic that you've got an official visit now scheduled to Ohio State. The problem was he's got a lot of official visits scheduled. He has a pretty tight schedule. He visited Ohio State earlier this spring and was trying to work out a date to get Ohio State in there, and they did so last night. He is going to visit Ohio State on June 11th to 12th, he told me last night, giving Ohio State a very realistic shot. So now he's got official visits set to South Carolina, Penn State, LSU, Ohio State, Auburn, Tennessee, and Clemson. That's a pretty tight schedule, but he got Ohio State in there. Somebody, I think, asked Dan, if I'm not mistaken, who's the leader there? That one is almost anybody's guess at this point. I don't know that I think there is a clear-cut leader right now for Darius Gray, to be honest.
All right, I have some more guys on here, but unfortunately, we've hit the 41-minute mark. And I have to charge you if we were going to go any further. And the dean has a very strict overtime policy at 42 minutes. And we cannot cover that given the salary cap. But we will be back. D. Gotta let that get in there. All right. We will be back on Thursday. We will not have the Grand Poobah. He should be sunburned and ready to return to the great state of Ohio by then. But load up your questions on Cruton and keep it locked. As Bill has said, there's no longer a recruiting schedule that we can follow. Guys will commit out of nowhere, and the portal is up and active, and the dean is on it. Buck Rational is right. The dean has to get his run in, so we got to get out of here. Hope everyone enjoyed the show. Have a good one. Nutters of Buck.